As you know, the Republican Supreme Court, Republican-dominated Supreme Court, gutted the Voting Rights Act a couple of weeks ago in what some have described as analogous to deciding that we had a bad intersection where accidents were happening. We put up stoplights and motion-activated cameras to catch license plate numbers that come through and don't stop. And since we have now gotten rid of all the traffic accidents there, we should get rid of those things. And as soon as the Voting Rights Act was struck down, we had half a dozen states across the country ramping up and reinstituting their voting laws, which were designed to suppress the vote of generally minorities, more generally Democrats, but to a large extent minorities. And there is now a trial in Pennsylvania over the constitutionality of the state's voter identification law, the state constitutionality of the state's voter identification law. The other day, 2 days ago, Bernard Siskin, a statistical expert who has been a consultant for a variety of government agencies and companies, including the FBI, testified that about 511,000 registered voters in Pennsylvania lack the state issue IDs required at the polls under the law. He also said the law disproportionately affects Democrats and members of minority groups. They are 3 times as likely as Republicans, Democrats are, and minorities about twice as likely as whites to lack the valid ID needed. This is relevant because the state's constitution would prohibit a law that disenfranchises large number of voters. On top of that, and just if you wanted to know the agenda behind this, we already know that a Pennsylvania state lawmaker back in the day said that Pennsylvania was going to go to Mitt Romney because we were able to pass voter ID law. We now have a Republican representative after the election bragging about this fact in regards to a question about voter ID. Listen to it now.
Do you think all the attention drawn to voter ID affected last year's elections?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think we probably had a better election. Think about this. We cut Obama by 5%, which was big. You know, a lot of people lost sight of that. He won. He beat McCain by 10%. He only beat Romney by 5%. I think that probably voter ID.
Wait a second. Stop this. Play it again. Listen to the question.
Do you think all the attention drawn to voter ID affected last year's elections?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think we probably had a better election. Think about this. We cut Obama by 5%, which was big. You know, a lot of people lost sight of that. He won. He beat McCain by 10%. He only beat Romney by 5%. I think that probably voter ID had helped a bit in that.
So the question is, do you think that all the attention about your attempts to suppress voting in Pennsylvania drove up the rate of participation? And he doesn't even hear the question. All he does is say he thinks he's in some type of, meeting with donors. No, voter ID was successful for us. We were able to cut Obama's margin, and he was right. In 08, Obama won by 10 points, and 5 points in 2012 in Pennsylvania. So he was right. They were able to keep people away from the polls. Not the response you'd expect. Well, what we really did and what was more important is that we maintained the integrity of our election because of our bullshit talking points about what this is supposed to be preventing. This is just grotesque. It's grotesque. In fact, I don't know how this isn't admitted into this court case the next day. They even admit that it suppressed voter turnout. Unbelievable. Really unbelievable.